Here are two very important image corrections we need to look at when working on our images. One of them is chromatic aberration. Now this is something I typically do on a global level, which means that I'll do this to the entire image. So in looking at an image like this, I see a red glow where there's an area of high contrast. You have something black against something very, very bright. And this is an artifact due to the digital technology of our cameras, sensors, and lenses. This does not happen on film photography. This is a digital artifact. So this is something to inspect for. This is an unwanted event that happens in our photography. So you have to inspect your images and look for these kinds of things at the raw state, and you can only correct them at the raw state. So coming into lens corrections, there's a tab here that says remove chromatic aberration. So by clicking this, it made it less, but it also added some of the purple to the other edge of the phone. So what we need to do is come in here and do the manual settings. And we need to increase the amount of purple defringing. Not a lot, but just enough where this tends to go away. Now sometimes it's purple, sometimes it's green, which is why there's a green slider in here. But the idea is that at this point, this is where we can correct this. If we click OK without correcting this and move on and process this image or go into Photoshop, it's going to be really hard to get that removed once it's no longer at the raw camera state. So moving on to another artifact that happens in digital technology is something called Moire. This is a pattern where the frequency of your sensor versus the frequency of a fabric or pattern, they start to conflict and you get these lines or swirls throughout your image. In this case, there's all these lines running through this. Now, the only place you can correct this is through Lightroom's masking or Adobe Camera Raw's masking if you are into Photoshop. So I'm going to click the brush tool, and it's going to be hard to see because it's a red brush on top of a red shirt. Now, if I wanted to change this, once the mask has been created, I can change the overlay color and make this blue if I wanted to make it blue. But I'm going to leave it at red because that's the default color. So there's a mask above his shirt area. Now, coming down into the very, very low end of your masking tool, there is a slider called Moire. Now this doesn't really exist anywhere else that I know of in Camera Raw or Photoshop. But once you create a mask, you can then take the Moire slider and all those lines across his shirt disappear. So correcting for Moire is something that needs to be done again at the raw state. And that needs to happen using Lightroom masks, and then you can get access to this Moire slider and make the correction to get rid of the Moire. Now I may have gone a little too far because I'm seeing a little bit of gray appear around the edge of his jacket. So I'm going to go to subtract, choose the brush, and then I'm going to get a smaller brush with the bracket keys on my keyboard, and I'm going to then just remove a little bit of that mask that is affecting this area around the perimeter of his shirt, but this is also still correcting the moire, which was happening within the center of his shirt. So be careful. These are things that need to be addressed at the raw state before you render out your files.